Hi, and welcome back to U.S. History with me, Mr. Snyder. And today we're starting a new unit on imperialism and how the U.S. comes to be the big kids on the block and pushing around all the little kids. Your learning targets today, we're going to identify the factors that prods America to expand. We'll talk about how the U.S. takes its first steps toward global power, and we'll explain the chain of events that led up to the annexation of Hawaii. First off, imperialism. What is it? Well, essentially, it is a big country pushing around a little country. One country's control over weaker territories. Why would they do this? Well, we'll get to that in a second, but they justify it through racial superiority, national superiority, and cultural superiority, including racial superiority. In the U.S. case, we used Christianity and democracy to put on these countries, and some would argue that we're still putting democracy on other countries today. Social Darwinism also plays into this. Just people use it to justify imperialism, saying life is a competitive struggle, and some races are meant to succeed over others. If and a big if raw materials are taken from the colony back to home, it becomes an extractive economy. And the U.S. did not have any extractive economies. We very rarely use these places for raw materials. We wanted to find new markets to sell all of the things that we were producing. So the causes of imperialism are economic gain, whether it be through an extractive economy and raw materials, or entrepreneurs who want to sell their goods and find new overseas markets. Militarism, also a cause of imperialism, because we need a large military to protect our global trade networks, and so we expand our military, particularly our Navy. And then nationalism / social Darwinism, we think it is our duty to show these people the way and to show them Christianity and to show them democracy and the ways of the United States. Even though they may not want anything to do with it, we still believe it's our job. And so imperialist nations need a military, and so Alfred T. Mahan, this man right here, is a Navy officer who pushes the United States to build a larger Navy in order to increase its military strength, and that sort of coincides with us being able to push around other countries and be an imperialist nation. But our first steps toward global power were, the writer Frederick J. Turner kind of writes that America, since we've succeeded thus far, we've always had a large amount of unsettled land to sort of explore. And now that in the 1890s, the American frontier no longer exists, and so we must expand into foreign lands for that to happen. In 1853, Matthew Perry, not the actor from Friends, but he leads a large naval force into Japan and shows Japan all these gifts and all these Western inventions, and he gets Japan to start trading with us. And so we are now expanding into new markets in Asia. And in 1867, the Secretary of State William Seward purchases Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million. And it's known as Seward's Folly because why would anybody buy that? What's in Alaska that anybody needs? Well, it's rich in timber, oil, and other natural resources that the United States can either sell or produce into things and sell. And in 1959, Alaska and Hawaii will become our 49th and 50th states. And speaking of Hawaii, Hawaii has been economically tied to the United States since the late 1700s. Ships usually stop there on the way from the coast to East Asia and refuel, resupply. But now there are two problems in Hawaii. The main crop in Hawaii used to be sugar, and there's a new tariff on sugar from Hawaii, which makes it more expensive than sugar grown in the U.S. And so these white planters want to be annexed by the United States, and their queen of the natives there, Queen Liliuokalani, go ahead and say that out loud, Liliuokalani, have it spelled phonetically there for you. She represents she resents the power of these white planters. And so what do? These American planters then overthrow the queen, and the U.S. Marines actually helped because they're imperialists. They want some land because they're representatives of the U.S. And this new government they set up in Hawaii, led by Sanford B. Dole, as in Dole pineapple and Dole fruits, they asked to be annexed by the United States. And it doesn't happen right away. So here, just to review, are some of the islands that we have taken over and where they're at. Alaska, Puerto Rico, Philippines, Guam will get in the Spanish-American War, which we'll talk about next time. The Panama Canal zone we build so ships don't have to travel all the way around South America. But the U.S. eventually annexes Hawaii. President Harrison signs the treaty right away, but he can't get Senate approval before President Cleveland becomes president. And Cleveland finds that the Hawaiian people don't even want to be annexed. The West Coast, however, still has strong sentiment for annexing Hawaii. And during McKinley's administration later on, at the outbreak of the Spanish-American War, the U.S. finally annexes Hawaii in 1898. And speaking of annexing, we also annex other places around the Pacific, like Howland Island and Baker Island, Johnston Island, Jarvis Island, Midway Island, Wake Island, and American Samoa. And there's another map of these on page 253 in your book. So let's review our learning targets. The imperialism and extractive economy definitions we covered. We listed the 3 causes of imperialism. We talked about how the U.S. expanded their Navy and the events that led to the United States gaining global power. And we discussed how the U.S. annexed Hawaii eventually over a span of years. So that is it. Hopefully you have a good grasp of what imperialism is, a big country taking control over a smaller country. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.